Today I'm going to show you why Fidelity makes for the best hub account, and it's not for the reasons that you may think. Now, I discovered this Fidelity feature when trying to do another brokerage bonus transfer offer. Now, a lot of you are already probably aware that Fidelity has some of the highest paying money market funds. Now, one thing that I like about Fidelity is that all uninvested cash goes into this account, and I have SPAC selected, the Fidelity Government Money Market Fund. It has a very high yield of 3.94%, almost 4%. So that's higher than most brokerages. And Fidelity has some of the lowest fees and commissions. If we look at the fees here, comparing Fidelity to Schwab to Vanguard, they're all pretty similar, but Fidelity edges these out on the fees. Now, the one that I really like that makes Fidelity sort of stand out is the account transfer out fee, or the ACAT fee, when you transfer to another brokerage. Fidelity charges nothing for this, whereas Schwab charges $50. Most brokerages will charge anywhere from $50 to $100. Also, no insufficient funds fee, 0. And Fidelity has some of the best order execution, and they offer transparent pricing. Shows you what you save on a trade, yes, for Fidelity, no for Ameritrade. Fidelity takes no payment for order flow. Now, these other ones here, they actually receive money for this, so the order execution is probably not going to be as good with these other ones. Also, Fidelity has some of the best customer service. They've got the online virtual assistant. They've got online support Monday through Friday, even Saturday and Sunday. And what most people probably like the most is that Fidelity has U.S. call centers with U.S. customer service representatives, and they're available. I didn't even know this. It says 24/7. And they're always very helpful and easy to reach. Fidelity also has a Reddit page where they answer questions there as well. Fidelity sometimes gives away stuff on Reddit. I won this Fidelity pen and Bluetooth earbuds. As you can see here, Fidelity's got numerous awards and recognition. #1 overall broker by stockbrokers.com. NerdWallet, best online broker for beginners. Most trusted broker. Investors Business Daily, #1 online broker. Another thing that makes Fidelity a great hub account is they allow you to link to lots of different banks. They don't lock your account for a week like a lot of banks do. They make it very easy to link a bank account and to do quick transfers to other banks, which is often a requirement for bank bonuses. Fidelity has huge transfer limits. For example, the limit on daily withdrawals is a high $100,000. The limit on deposits, and this is daily, $250,000 a day deposit limit. So this is very useful when you have to send money back and forth for bank bonuses. Now, a feature that Fidelity has that a lot of people are probably not aware of, Fidelity allows the user to have multiple brokerage accounts. It's based on the profile. So my understanding is you could have actually hundreds of brokerage accounts. What I just added basically an extra brokerage account. So I had this one here, and it actually had this total amount in it. And so I created a brokerage account, another brokerage account, and it's very easy to do. All you do is you go down here, open an account, it opens the account, and you open a brokerage account. Then you can rename it whatever you want. I'm creating this account right here for the purpose of a brokerage transfer to another brokerage for a bonus. So I could probably rename this as, transfer brokerage account. This one is going to be completely transferred out, but I actually need $100,000 in here to do the $100,000 transfer bonus where I get $2,000. So once you create this account, within about 5 minutes, it's available. You get approved immediately, and you see this here. So right after I clicked open the account, I created the account. This individual one appeared, and I started transferring assets from this one into this one. So you go to transfer between Fidelity accounts right here. This is what I selected. Then you select the account you're transferring from. So I picked my main account. Then I selected the new account that I created, and you can see the total account value here. But I actually need to add more to this one. You could do a cash transfer from other Fidelity brokerage account. You could do a recurring transfer, monthly, for example. You can transfer shares, and this is what I selected. So I select shares. Now you can see all of the stocks that are available to transfer, and you could put all of the shares, or you could some of the shares that you want to transfer. Now you can see the shares that I transferred, and we'll see how much that adds up to. So why is this multiple brokerage account thing helpful? One reason somebody might want to create multiple brokerage accounts may have nothing to do with transferring out for a bonus. For example, maybe you want to have a long-term investing brokerage account where you do long-term investments. Maybe you want to have another one where you do short-term or speculative trading. And so you create a separate account for that. So you can kind of monitor the performance for each of those. That's one reason. But if you're looking to do a brokerage ACAT transfer, a transfer to another brokerage, you could do a full transfer, which would mean you'd have to wipe out this whole thing. Or you could do a partial transfer where you transfer a percentage of the shares. But that can be problematic, and I'll explain. For example, I had Tasty Trade. I still have Tasty Trade. I did a transfer deal last year where I transferred roughly $100,000 and I received $2,000, but I had to keep the money there for 1 year. And I recently transferred out from Tasty Trade to Fidelity. However, I don't want to close out my Tasty Trade account. I still receive referrals from this one, and so I don't want to close out the accounts. What I wanted to do was transfer all of the assets, all of the stocks, except for the cash, which meant I did a partial ACAT transfer, and I selected all of the stocks, but not the cash. But I had a little bit of a problem with that. Before I did the transfer, I made sure that all of the share number for each share of stock was correct. And I was aware that there's a risk with stock splits, but I figured that the 2 or 3 days or whatever that it would take, I probably would be okay out of about 60 stocks that I own. However, I owned O'Reilly Automotive and I had a 15-for-1 stock split and I did a partial transfer. So what happened is I owned 1 share of stock, which meant that I got 15 shares. So my 1 share became 15 shares. And the time that I transferred from Tasty Trade to Fidelity and I entered all the information into Fidelity, it was all correct. I had 1 share, but it was like the next day or the day after is when the date of record for the stock split that I wasn't aware of. I didn't have time, I guess, to go through all of them and check. So what ended up happening is I've got 14 shares now at Tasty Trade that were left behind, and only 1 share was transferred to Fidelity. So I asked Fidelity if they could fix it, and they said if you did a full ACAT transfer, we would be able to fix it. But since you did a partial transfer, you'll have to do it again if you want to have that stock move over, which meant that I would have to pay another $75 to transfer over. And so it's not that big of a deal. I just left it behind at Tasty Trade, but it is a little bit annoying. And that's one thing to be concerned about is stock splits, especially if you have a lot of stocks and you're not checking every single one like I wasn't checking. So that's a risk. But the first thing that I did when I transferred that I screwed up was I selected through the Fidelity interface, I did a partial transfer and I selected 1 stock, and then I selected the next screen, and apparently there was no other option to add more stocks. So I did a partial transfer and I only selected 1 stock, and then I just messaged Fidelity and thought they would work it all out, and that it didn't work out that way. So I basically had to do 2 transfers, so 2 $75 fees in order to get this to work, and I still had those 14 shares left behind. Now, what I should have done is I should have opened another account with Tasty Trade. Under one profile, Tasty Trade allows you to create additional accounts. Now, it doesn't allow you to create additional customer profiles, so this has to be linked to your existing account. You simply select the account type, create the account, then you log into Tasty Trade, it'll appear next to the other accounts. Then you can do an internal transfer between accounts. If I would have done this, I probably could have done a full transfer from one of those accounts and still kept the other account open. So what other features does Fidelity have that you're probably not aware of? Well, these 2 are already features you're probably using, that everyone's probably using without even knowing it. You're probably aware that Fidelity has one of the most generous FDIC insurance programs. If you open the cash management account, the cash is insured up to $5 million by opening multiple accounts. Now, if you're invested in the Fidelity Brokerage account, you're probably invested in the Fidelity Government Money Market SPACs. And SPACs is not insured by the FDIC, it's insured by SIPC. Now, this coverage covers up to $500,000 in securities and up to $250,000 for cash, but Fidelity has something called excess of SIPC coverage. Now, it says that Fidelity's excess SIP coverage is $1 billion. There is no per customer dollar limit on the coverage of securities, but there is a per customer limit of $1.9 million on the coverage of cash waiting investment. So the cash waiting investment is covered up to $1.9 million. Also, did you know that Fidelity has recurring investments and it's way more advanced than a lot of other brokers. Now, you can select this under the trade bar, the black trade bar, not the accounts and trade, and I made this mistake. Now, you can find this feature once you log in, not under accounts and trade, not that section, but you have to log in and then click on the black bar that says trade. And then you'll see this option, reoccurring investment. You can make recurring investments in stocks, ETFs, and mutual funds. Now, if you select account and trade, this is the section that comes up. And from the trade dropdown, you won't see recurring investment. I made this mistake many times where I was looking for recurring investment under accounts and trade. It's not under account and trade. It's actually under a separate section. Now, it's actually under, if you go to portfolio, so you go to portfolio, then you select on this trade in the top left. Now you can see this different pull down that pops down, and you should see recurring investment. Now from here, I can add stocks, ETFs, or mutual funds. This is way more than most brokers have. So for example, I could invest, let's say $100 every week, select a day, and I could do the Vanguard S&P 500, or I could do a stock. How does Charles Schwab compare? Charles Schwab has automatic investing, but it's only for mutual funds. How does E-Trade compare? E-Trade has automatic investing, but it's only certain ETFs and mutual funds, no stocks. Recurring investment with the stock on E-Trade. So once again, Fidelity has a lot more options. Now here's another feature that I think you probably don't know Fidelity has. Now, you know that Fidelity has fractional shares, right? You can buy less than one share of a stock or ETF. Fidelity allows you to own fractions of US stocks and exchange traded funds. That alone is a lot better than what some brokers have. So you can own fractions of US stocks and exchange traded funds with as little as $1 using fractional shares. You're probably aware of that, but Fidelity has more US stocks. For example, with E-Trade, did you know that you can't actually buy fractional shares? You can sell them. You can get them through an automatic investing program and sell them eventually, but you can't just do a simple order to buy fractional shares. And did you know with Charles Schwab, they have something called Schwab stock slices? Now this does fractional shares, but only for the S&P 500 stocks, and it's a $5 minimum. So anything outside of the S&P 500 stocks like ETFs, not supported. So Fidelity has more options for this, but it doesn't end there. Once you select the investment that you want, for demonstration purposes, let's just use Microsoft. Now you can buy, like most fractional orders, you could buy a dollar amount. You could put in you could do at least $1 with Fidelity. With Schwab, it's $5. But now you see this option here, market and limit. Most brokers that support fractional shares, they support market-based orders. But if you want to set a price on the stock, you can actually set a limit price with the fractional order. We could actually place an order to buy Microsoft today, let's say for $4.90. Now, there are limitations to it. Now, this limit order feature with fractional orders is relatively new. I did a video on this about a year and a half ago in 2024. I did a video about Alpaca Brokerage, how they started offering fractional share trading for limit orders. Now, this article mentioned that they were industry leading limit orders and extended trading for fractional shares. So I think they're probably one of the early ones on limit orders for fractional orders. But now Fidelity has this option. Now the limitation on this limit order is that it has to be a day order. So you can't place a limit order and then set it to good till cancel and expect that within 30 days it's going to try to execute. It's just only a day order. So you either have to place a market order, do the order during the day, or a limit order. If it doesn't execute during the day, you'd have to do another limit order the next day. This limit order will expire at the end of the day. Now here's something else I found interesting about Fidelity. Fidelity charges less money for their mutual funds than their ETFs. And with Vanguard, it's pretty much the opposite. For example, if we look at Vanguard, almost all of their ETFs have a lower expense ratio than their mutual funds. So the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, VOO, has a 0.03% expense ratio. If we look at the mutual fund equivalent in Admiral shares, it's 0.04% expense ratio. So the mutual fund costs more. And you'll see that across all of Vanguard is that the ETFs are cheaper. But with Fidelity, they have the Fidelity Zero mutual funds, zero minimum investment, zero expense ratio. Now, these are kind of special. They have to be locked in. You have to buy and sell them from Fidelity. You can't actually transfer these mutual funds to another broker. So that's the downside of these zero funds. But they also have an equivalent version called the Flex that's for asset managers. And this is if you've got a managed account. Now, if you have a Fidelity Go account, which is their robo-advisor managed account, so you would probably think they're going to charge a 0.2 or 0.3% advisory fee. Well, Fidelity is different. Now, what makes this advisory account quite different is that there's no advisory fees on under $25,000, and then 0.35% a year for balances over $25,000. But those that have over $25,000, they do get the perks of unlimited one-on-one coaching calls. So basically, this one also is linked with sort of the zero fund. So if you're like me, you're probably thinking, oh, no advisory fees. They must be making the money by charging customers a lot for expensive Fidelity funds, but that's not the case. Fidelity uses a zero expense ratio, sort of like these Fidelity Zero funds, but it's a special version called Fidelity Flex that's for advisors. They'll invest in the Fidelity Flex funds, which are no-fee index funds. So for example, this Fidelity Flex 500 index fund, expense ratio 0. So net expense ratio 0. They've got, I believe, 12 of these funds, all different types of indexes. So you're probably familiar with the government money market fund that pays 3.99%. It was actually 4% yesterday. Now this one had a 0.42% expense ratio. But look what you get if you have Fidelity Go. You get Fidelity Flex Government Money Market Fund. Look what this one pays, 4.42%. This is basically SPACs without the fees. Look at expense ratio, 0. So that's kind of the perk of putting money with Go, is that they put you in these no-cost funds. So you fill out a questionnaire, you answer your risk tolerance, and then it automatically will invest a certain percentage of stocks and bonds. Now, the downside to this strategy is, from what I've heard, it sort of tops out at around 80% stocks and the rest is bonds. A lot of people want to do 100% stock, but from what I understand, they don't allow you to do 100% stock. So that's sort of the downside. But the pricing is very interesting on this product. So anyways, that's my video. I just wanted to do a quick video on Fidelity and show you some of the features that you're probably not aware of. So anyways, have a good one. Don't forget to like and subscribe.